OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, is the federal watchdog over the safety of people who work in this country. OSHA's power to inspect some working places has come under fire. Congress is trying to limit the agency's authority to inspect. Ellen Fleischer takes a look tonight at OSHA and goes on a safety inspection here in New York.
A morning in July, and two compliance officers from OSHA are off to inspect a factory in Midtown Manhattan. We don't yet know its name, but it's a place that's been cited in the past for serious violations. This day, its presses are being rechecked.
People could lose their fingers and hands on these machines if they're not properly guarded. And we're checking to see if they are properly guarded.
What are you doing there today?
Well, in that a health inspection was never made of the establishment, I'm here to do that portion of it.
Well, what do you mean health inspection?
Well, it involves things such as toxic contaminants and excessive noise exposure and proper protective equipment.
Eyewitness News was not told in advance where the inspection would take place. We just went along with the inspectors for as long as we could.
On the label, OSHA.
Right.
And I'm here, yes, and myself and Mary Ann Santorelli's, we're here to make an inspection of the premises. This is WABC TV, and they're following me on the inspection. I don't have anything to do with what they're doing.
Right.
We were asked not to
Television.
film inside the factory,
Yeah, well,
and
that's
so I went in without the crew and talked with the president of Hop Press. I spoke with Mr. George Hop, who is the president of Hop Press,
Yes.
And while he will allow you to inspect his premises, he decided that it would be too disruptive to the normal workplace for us to accompany you. So you will proceed inside,
Yes,
and I guess we leave you here.
I guess so.
He also pointed out to me that it has cost his company thousands of dollars to comply with OSHA's citations. And it may cost him even more. The safety inspection that day resulted in citations for locked exits, unguarded pulleys and belts, and for exposed electrical wires. The total fine, $1,080. Hop Press says it is contesting the charges. Others contest the existence of OSHA. A committee called Stop OSHA is lobbying to have the agency abolished altogether. Who contributes to Stop OSHA?
People all over the country do. Individuals, some businesses, some larger corporations.
Businesses
but I think
and corporations that were perhaps cited by OSHA?
some that have been and some that are afraid that they might be.
Critics sometimes accuse OSHA of picking on employers for small points. And you can sure find plenty of them in this 800-page book of OSHA regulations. Sometimes things are made a bit more complicated than they have to be. For instance, OSHA defines the word exit as that portion of a means of egress which is separated from all other spaces of the building or structure. Webster makes it a bit easier. Exit, the way out of an enclosed space.
They come in, they inspect. They don't care at all about the real problems when it comes to workplace safety. What they are concerned about is looking at what's written down on sheets of paper.
We don't want to nitpick. We want to save those people from lung cancer, from brain cancer who are out there in the workplace. We want to save the construction worker from falling off a building because there is not adequate scaffolding. Those are the important issues.
Safety is an important issue in New York's multi-million-dollar construction industry. It was 10 years ahead of the government in starting its own on-the-job safety programs. Labor and management in the building trades don't always agree, but when it comes to OSHA, the two sides are in harmony.
We find that the goal of OSHA is the goal of the sound union contractor, a safe economic job.
Anything that makes a job safer for our men working on a job site is going to help our men. It's going to help them from getting hurt. It's going to help them from getting killed. This is what OSHA has done.
President Carter says his administration supports a strong OSHA, but Ronald Reagan calls OSHA a four-letter word that gives businessmen fits. New legislation to cut down the agency's powers appears dead, at least until the next session of Congress. What happens then might well depend on who's in the White House when Congress reconvenes in January. Roger?
Despite all those people we see jogging and jiggling in the park, despite all the people we see with the health club bag, despite all the diets, the government tells us today, 1 of every 5 Americans is at least 20% overweight. and women are much more likely to become obese.
Still ahead on Eyewitness News, speaking of sports, Bruce King will have all the sports, and that will include a special report from Mike Berry on the America's Cup race. Bruce will tell us about the Mets, tonight playing the leader of the league, Montreal. We'll have that in a moment when Eyewitness News continues.
Just coffee? I saved your favorite donuts.
We had fresh Hostess donuts home, Rosie.
We missed you at the coffee shop.
Mom had Hostess donuts for breakfast.
Funny how folks who used to go out for breakfast eat home when breakfast means fresh Hostess donuts. Light, moist, and what a choice at the Hostess Breakfast Bake Shop.
What a choice. Too bad it's hurting Rosie's business.
Keep them home for breakfast with Hostess donuts.
You brought two beautiful kids into the world. They've always liked each other, and they liked you, because you both were sensitive and thoughtful and helped them over the rough spots. In fact, as parents, you really thought of everything, except appointing a legal guardian and buying enough dual-parent life insurance to provide for their future. So the only question is, now that you're gone, will New York State love them as much as you did? Savings Bank Life Insurance. It pays to think about it.
Looks great.
Sure does. White MATEUS.
So delicate.
I didn't know there was a white MATEUS.
I thought you knew everything.
Here's to our new baby, Eloise!
There's something everyone can agree upon wherever life takes you to. Did you ever know anyone who didn't like MATEUS?
I have to know what the market's doing right now.
There are some things you just can't wait to hear.
When you can't wait to hear it, dial it.
It might rain, Harold.
I'll dial weather.
When you can't wait to hear it, dial it.
You're on, Buffo, and it better be funny.
When you can't wait to hear it, dial it.
For all the dial-it numbers, call 976-1000, the dial-it services of New York Telephone.
Dial it.